And welcome, everybody, to the 104th episode of the Fact Is Podcast. We're your hosts, Nate Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And, of course, we got Mr. Stizzy behind the mic.
Easy
How we
behind
doing,
guys?
Hi. How we all doing today?
Oh,
doing
man.
good?
Ichi.
Now, woke up on the right side of the grass.
You were in the grass?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking down at it, not up at it. It was a good day when that happened.
It is always a good day. Well, welcome, everybody. Appreciate you all joining us here today. You know, excited for this week's episode. Of course, we got plenty of topics that we're going to discuss. But before we get started, one topic that we feel is an honorable mention is Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker lost to, oh, crap. Rafael, thank you. Yep. And so that is the conclusion of the Senate midterms, and it is now 51 to 49 in the Senate chambers. So,
Hey, Stu, I'm not seeing the live page. Where are we at here?
on Facebook?
Yeah.
Oh, we're here.
Huh.
I got you. But yeah, we're live and we're having a great time here. So
Live and
well.
live and wild.
Live and well. But yeah, so Senate wise has been turned over to the Democrats. That is official. They are now, 51 to 49. So, any big discussions there? Or any shock? I mean, are you shocked that the Democrats? I am. I will say I am shocked that the midterm elections turned out the way they did. I didn't expect it. I thought it was going to be more 50-50 than anything, but I also really thought the Republicans were going to win that one. I really did, but midterms ended up going to the Democrats.
Because people don't get out and vote in the midterms.
Well, yeah, that's a good point too. But it is
I'm not
interesting.
surprised by it.
Really? You're not surprised? I kind of am, if I'm being honest. I really thought Republicans were going to kind of take.
I thought they would take the House, and then it would be pretty close. Yeah,
They took the house, right?
They did take the House, yes, but I thought they would. I thought they would take the House and Senate. I really did. Which I mean, I personally, I'm not a big fan of either one of them, anyways. But just kind of I didn't expect that.
That's another Trump candidate that went down.
Who, Herschel Walker?
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, he's losing ground.
Well, we'll see what happens come 2024. And we also vowed that we weren't going to talk
The
about
governor's
Kanye.
Republican too.
No, we're not talking about Kanye. We
Because
just hope he gets well soon.
We hope he gets well soon, because that is one sick man. Especially when you got Alex, like we said, Alex Jones looking at you.
When Alex Jones is looking at you sideways, like, sorry, boys, but you're messing up.
Yeah, like something's wrong.
It's like, something's not right there.
That's hilarious. But all right, cool. Well,
So, Dave, I gotta get the hot take here. What do you think of this camel fur hat I've got here today?
I think you're in the wrong country, friend. No,
It is. I'm not gonna lie. It was a bad day to wear it because it's a little warmer than I would like it to be with this hat on.
I do like it though. It was kind of warm out today, which
it was a little warm
was
out,
shocking.
but-
But no, I do like the hat. It looks
keeps my
great.
ears so nice and warm. It's awesome.
It looks really good. I do like it. But yeah,
handmade in Iraq.
oh, was it Iraq?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So
could have fooled me. I thought it was Russia.
nope. No Russian apparel here.
No Russian apparel here.
I do not support the motherland.
That's funny. Yeah, so no, I do like the hat. It's definitely a fun one. It's probably the best one you've worn so far. If I
I
have
don't
to be
know, man.
honest.
My golf hat is pretty sick.
Well, who doesn't like golfing? But
The whole brew, like
oh, that's right. Have you worn
Yeah.
that on this yet?
Oh yeah, I hit that one when I first got the hat.
That's right, you did, didn't you? Because you said that's what you were going to be doing week in, week out.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a different hat every week.
I love it.
I messed up though because we had that layoff, so I thought I was in the clear with the last week's hat, but nope, went back to back weeks with that one.
Dang.
I've got about 16 hats that I can cycle, so I'm just gonna keep adding to the collection.
That's wild. I love it.
I love it.
Oh man, fun times. All right, cool. Well, let's jump straight into our
Let's
articles.
get a hashtag hat man.
We get a hashtag awesome hat.
If we get enough hashtags, I'll go and get a spotlight made with a hat on it, and I'll fight crime.
We'll put up the bat light when we need you.
Hat light.
The hat light. So Dems moved to make South Carolina, not Iowa, first voting state. Democrats voted Friday to remove Iowa as the leadoff state on the presidential nominating calendar and replace it with South Carolina starting in 2024. A dramatic shakeup championed by President Joe Biden is better reflected to the party's deep, diverse electorate. The Democratic National Committee's rulemaking arm made the move to strip Iowa from the position it has held for 5 decades after technical meltdowns sparked chaos and marred results of the state's 2020 caucus. The change also comes after a long push by some of the party's top leaders to start choosing a president in states that are less white, especially given the importance of black voters as Democrats' most loyal electoral base. Discussion on prioritizing diversity drew such impassioned reaction at the committee gathering in Washington that DNC chair Jamie Harrison wiped away tears as committee member Donna Brazil suggested that Democrats had spent years failing to fight for black voters. Do you know what it's like to live on a dirt road? Do you know what it's like to try to find running water that is clean? Do you know what it's like to wait and see when the storm is going to pass you and if you and your roof is still intact? And that's what this is about, says Brazil. But I'm not going to go too much further into it. But I'm interested to hear what you all think about this. To me, it's. I really don't care where you campaign first or where the vote, whatever, as long as we continue to push for one thing and one thing only, voting your conscience and making sure, of course we want fair elections, but for me, it's really just, it doesn't matter where you campaign. What matters is what messages you're getting out to the people and ensuring that the people are voting their conscience. And again, the biggest issue we're seeing is the tribalism that's going on between both parties. People sticking to just to one side regardless of what they see on the other, or voting to go for one side because you hate the other. We're not voting in a place of conscience anymore. And so for me, I don't really care where they start the campaign trail. I don't care where they're, so that doesn't really bother me at all. But it's whatever. What is your take?
One of the things that caught me the most by surprise on this article is that the black vote is the Democrats' most loyal vote.
I mean, yeah, it definitely was.
Which doesn't make any sense to me because Democrats have never been nice to black people.
Oh, they've never necessarily made...
Outside of maybe Obama, but I talked to a lot of black people and they say that Obama really didn't even do anything for them.
I've talked to a lot of black individuals myself, and I don't really see the overwhelming support for the Democratic side. I mean, they're not... Honestly, I think they're... I've had a lot more conversations with individuals that are, whether they're African American or white, that are more independent than anything. Yeah. I really don't see, at least where we live, our local area, I don't see the Democrat-Republican side. I see more. I do see more Republican than I do Democrat, of course, but I see mostly independent. And one of our good friends that we play ball with in the morning, Dre. I mean, he's one of those individuals that doesn't like either side as well. And we can sit down and have conversations with him for hours about this. But it's interesting to see, yes, and I did kind of take that away also. I guess the biggest thing...
Weird. If you look back through history, the Democrats have never been nice to black people.
I was going to say, a lot of those policies that were targeting...
It was the Republicans that freed the slaves. Yeah. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, though...
They said that there was a party flip back in the 60s.
Yes.
But if you look back at the voting tendencies, there wasn't a flip at all.
Right. I've never understood that also, so I'm not gonna try to guess on it. I've always tried to educate myself on the flip, but I've never understood at what point and what period of time and where it came about. So I've heard the same thing, that there was a flip. So I don't know exactly what the truth is behind all that, but regardless, I mean, Biden was very pushy about making laws that were kind of, I would say, more biased towards locking up individuals of African American descent. And
1996 crime bill?
Crime bill. There was plenty of things that were done on the Democratic side that were against African Americans. So I don't see where necessarily the black vote comes in. I don't know if that's just maybe so. Now I do know places like Baltimore, of course, like heavier city.
Any of the urban areas.
Urban areas are typically the ones that do vote more Democrats. So, yeah.
I wonder why Biden chose South Carolina.
I don't know. I don't know
South
either.
South Carolina traditionally a red state?
That's what I said.
He'd like to see South Carolina go first, better ensure that voters of color aren't marginalized as Democrats choose presidential nominee.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, to me that was pretty interesting. Also,
I mean, they've always got a plan for something.
Just South
Yeah.
Carolina, random.
Chess.
yeah. So again, regardless, I don't think it's a huge deal where they choose to go first. Just I mean, I hate the way our politics campaigns anyways. I think it's just a huge waste of money personally.
Nate wants to see the Hunger Games.
Yeah, 12 districts across the U.S.
12 districts. Everybody, puts up one person. Although I feel very, very strong about the war thing. Like if two countries are going to go to war, you just lock up the leaders and let them fight to the death.
I mean, yeah, if you're
Instead
going to
of
go to war with
expending
another
millions
country
of people
to fight for you.
unnecessarily, for whatever agenda you have.
Yeah, exactly.
Just get them the 4 ounces, man. Let them go in there and duke it out.
Still be really scary if we did that right now because
Oh, Vladimir would kick people's booty.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if it was like, the
Daco versus Vladimir would be awesome.
that'd be good. But if it was like 10, different, countries combined against
Could you imagine
Putin?
Biden versus Vladimir?
No, I don't even want to. I like that. We already know who would
Could you
win.
imagine Trump versus Vladimir?
We already know who would win. I'm pretty sure Putin would kill anybody.
Putin cheated. He stole it from me.
He broke my leg in the process. Not fair. I know all about the mix of martial arts.
There's a good mix.
Yeah. Of the arts.
I'm quite very
and the
good.
arts.
The best there's ever been.
Oh, man.
And there's arts that mix.
Come
And
on,
then-
man.
And
Sweep
then
the
there's
leg.
a mix of arts.
Sweep
And
the
they happen to
leg.
be martial.
But
But
anyway,
they tell me I'm very good at it. Maybe the best that they've ever seen.
that's funny. But full circle, kind of thinking about Iran.
Iran?
See,
I don't know where that came from.
Here in the article, it says the Republicans are keeping Iowa as the first contest. I don't know why Democrats are.
Maybe the Democrats are trying to get a stronghold in the South. They just got Georgia, so maybe they're going after South Carolina now too.
Maybe, and maybe that's where they're trying to make that change.
They only got Georgia in the Senate, though, right?
They got Georgia in the. I don't know about the House.
Because the House, I'm pretty sure,
All right,
was
listen to
red.
this.
And I'm pretty sure the governor's red.
Why-
Yeah, Stacey Abrams lost. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Clyburn's endorsement. Who's Clyburn? Jim Clyburn, House Majority. Said Clyburn's endorsement of Biden in 2020 boosted the candidate's flagging presidential campaign just ahead of South Carolina primaries, which he won big. That helped Biden
Bigly.
take off early losses in Iowa,
Bigly.
New Hampshire, and Nevada, and eventually take the White House. So he performed very well in South Carolina and not so well in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada. So no wonder he wants to go back there. He wants to start
Yeah.
It's an
there.
interesting state. New Hampshire is like the live free state, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, they've got all kinds of laws. Like they don't even have concealed carry permits in New Hampshire anymore.
Oh wow,
Yeah, they
You
get
can
rid
just
of those.
carry?
Yeah, you just have guns.
kind of nice.
Kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I bet you that they see a lot less crime because if you know that everyone's carrying a gun, if everyone is packing, are you gonna go and try to rob somebody?
No, I mean think about
I'm
it. Back
not.
in the day at like saloons and stuff.
Dan Wells said something.
What did Manuel say?
Let's see. There was a party flip. Southerners have always been conservatives, though. So
I'm not seeing those comments. Oh, there it is. Yeah, there was a party flip. Southerners have always been conservative, though. So yeah, which makes sense because, I mean, obviously dating back to the Civil War, even right, like
Yeah.
you've always had the South versus the North type of mentality. So yeah, there was a party flip. Okay,
it's like that song, "Song of the South." Remember, you know that one, "Sweet Potato Pie" and "Shut My Mouth."
nah, I'm
He's like, "Daddy was the son of a Southern Democrat" or something like that. I'm butchering the song.
right.
I'm interested to think what
And then
Manuel
he talks about
thinks about this.
About the Democrats
flip?
going for South Carolina.
No,
Or party
how
flip.
about starting in South Carolina?
it would be.
Because again, South Carolina, great state, beautiful state. I've had family members live down there. I like you said, I think the point is
Have you ever been to Greensboro
no.
or Greenville? Sorry, Greenville, South
Can't
Carolina.
say I have been.
Oh, dude, it's gorgeous.
But I was gonna say like
It is a pretty place.
the thing with that is I'm assuming like you said they're trying to capture the states that they made some leeway or headway in. Yeah, they're trying. They're finally getting into it to try to win those votes.
Spread out.
Yeah,
Think of it like a virus.
like a virus. Yeah, I mean that's so they're
Well,
trying
the same
to
thing
capture
could-
those votes.
To turn around and happen kind of in the northern states though too. What's up, Dean? How you doing?
Hello, Dean. You're okay. You can
I guess
relate.
it's just so Biden starts out strong.
Yeah, we'll see. But you know,
Is he even gonna make it to the election? I mean, he's falling off bikes and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
He can't remember his own name half the time.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there, but Biden, he's we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. Who they decide is the Democrat leader and the Republican leader, but we'll hear more about that closer towards 2024. So let's move on to the next article.
Next agenda.
The next agenda is Biden and world leaders signing a declaration for global vaccine passport system. So last week, global leaders met in Bali for the annual G20 summit, a meeting designed to align governments financially. Biden, who initially promised that the U.S. wouldn't see vaccine mandates, but ultimately mandated them in executive order, signed off on a declaration to create a global vaccine passport at the summit. So the details: the declaration aims to create seamless international travel through a global health network to standardize the vaccine certificates. If you have been vaccinated or tested properly, you can move around. So for the next pandemic, instead of stopping the movement of people 100% and stopping the global economy, you can still provide some movement of the people. And then the big picture, so the infrastructure.
So the next pandemic?
Yeah,
a little foreshadowing there, huh?
Yeah. You can still provide some. So instead of stopping the movement of people 100% and stopping the global economy. Yeah, so for the next pandemic, yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah, because I mean, what happens if the next global pandemic is something that is not even close to COVID?
Yeah, let's touch back up on that. So the infrastructure needed for a global passport system is already in place. At least 21 states adopted digital vaccine verification systems, and the infrastructure necessary for the national vaccine pass. Vaccine mandates still plague job applicants in certain sectors. Plus, the U.S. still requires all non-citizens to show proof of being fully vaccinated to enter the country. So, yeah, let's talk about that real quick. That was a very interesting use of wordage there. I mean, the next pandemic
that we know nothing about, apparently.
Yeah, that we hopefully don't get, right? The point is to have preventative maintenance of any kind of pandemic that's supposed to come around. So
I guess they're saying maybe if you have the system in place,
maybe
you can just flash your little QR code that says I follow the rules.
Right, because for me, I would much rather see, with the vaccine passport, it not go into place. but when you start foreshadowing about the next pandemic, I mean, the idea is what we want to see is we want to start to see our healthcare systems, whether it be domestically or internationally across the whole world, start to go towards more preventative maintenance. Start getting away from the pills, start getting away from the things that we use on an everyday basis, and stop being so heavily reliant on opioids. Or anything that is going to create any kind of addiction, right? So the idea is that we want to move away from that and use more preventative maintenance and more, get into the gym, work out, get your body right, be healthy, eat healthier foods, get a good diet. The idea is your overall health. It shouldn't be, let's prepare for the next pandemic. Let's just start moving away from ever having a pandemic that's going to affect this many people, right? Because, I mean, let's just be honest, the less fat you have, to a certain extent, of course, the healthier you're going to be, right? Like, the better your immune system is going to be, the less your organs have to work for your body, it's just science. It's not, people get all about, just trust the science, but people get really mad about what they call fat shaming nowadays. Well, I mean, fat shaming is... I don't necessarily see a bad thing about people saying, hey, you could be healthier. There's nothing wrong with having those tough, honest conversations. My opinion.
Now, yes and no. I mean, some people are so entrenched in their ways that they're not going to change, and they don't want to catch a hard time about it. They just want to live their life.
Right, fair enough.
And, to those people, more power to you.
You're allowed to, yeah. And that's your choice.
But if you're one of those people that is out of shape, you're large, you're obese, and you're sitting around complaining about it, then someone should absolutely have the right to say, hey, well, there's a way to change that, right?
Yeah, right.
Now, that's not the case in all scenarios. Obviously, thyroid issues can create obesity pretty quickly. And,
I mean,
there's things that that can't necessarily be treated with just diet and
No,
exercise.
yeah, thyroid, binge eating disorders. There's plenty of things that are actual health issues that I understand.
Yeah.
But like, if you have, a very healthy, body, let's just go with that, because I can't think of what I'm trying to internalize
Internal
here.
system.
Yeah, internal system. Yeah, if you have a healthier system, like a healthier body than most, and you're able to make those decisions, I think it would be best. Because you would see the kind of energy. Like I said, I mean, ever since I've lost a lot of weight, I have noticed my energy levels are so much better. I'm able to focus more. I'm able to get a nicer sleep through the night. I'm able to stay asleep. So I would argue, just the idea of helping people with their overall health and helping prevent the next pandemic instead of preparing for it, as in like, we need to have a system in place for all these vaccines. That I don't know. It's just the way they worded it was really weird.
Well, Manuel just commented twice, actually. He said, on the first one, he said, I'd say it does a few things, going back to talking about why starting off in South Carolina. But a lot of it is probably because it helps mainstream Democrats. Ohio is always a toss-up because they pride themselves on voting how they want to. And I think he meant to say South Carolina, but he put NC. You typically get a strong traditional Democrat stronghold, which is why Biden won there.
Right.
So, yeah, that makes sense.
It does make sense.
And then he also commented on the pandemic thing here. He said, I would caution the way you're thinking about this. A pandemic, especially another novel pandemic, demands action because we don't know what it is until we do. Trying to be as healthy as possible is fine, but we shouldn't pretend that it will keep you healthy regardless of what happens. Unfortunately, that is not true. I agree with you.
Yeah,
there.
I'm not going to disagree
But
with that.
If you're healthy, you have a healthy immune system, you're taking your vitamins, you get plenty of sunlight, you're exercising, you're doing the things to keep your immune system up, you have a much better chance of
fighting
whatever the next pandemic is, unless it's just an absolute killer.
And
So,
go ahead.
yes, there is some caution that I could see where you're coming from, Manuel, but at the same time, getting people healthier is never a bad thing.
No, right. Like getting your overall population healthy is not a bad thing. But I would also like to argue, we're talking about a novel pandemic, right? I wouldn't even consider COVID. I mean, of course, the rest of the world's going to consider it a pandemic. And yes, it did take lives and it was a very tragic illness that spread. But let's be honest, we don't even have accurate reporting of what exactly happened in this pandemic.
Tread lightly, Nave. You're going to get us canceled.
I'm just being honest because let's go back and let's talk about the reporting. Now, for those who haven't actually worked in the healthcare system, you can only trust who's on the ground and who's actually working these situations, right? I have plenty of friends. I have plenty of colleagues and peers that have all talked about being in the healthcare system and saying that they have listed more COVID deaths when it really wasn't a COVID death.
Yeah, like
so we don't
accident,
have an
you have
accurate,
COVID.
we don't have an accurate count of exactly who died in this pandemic purely based off COVID. And even then, we don't have an accurate, because again, when you look at the people who did die and the people who were fatally taken from us, 98 to 99% of them were
He's
65 or older.
off the top of his head.
Well, from the last time we looked at it, right? I would love to know. Stuart, look this up for me real quick. The percentage of people that died from this pandemic were 65 or older, mortally obese, or had some sort of pre-existing health condition.
Oh yeah, the pre-existing thing that was a huge determiner.
Yeah, so I mean,
if you had a severe illness or a marker on an organ that wasn't performing correctly, then yeah, you were at very high risk.
Right.
However, younger, healthier people didn't start really dying until the vaccines were introduced.
Interestingly enough, right?
Which is now being recognized by the medical community. I mean, what was it? I think it was PubMed.gov actually just opened up a study into myocarditis in children 15 to 20
that are getting the vaccine.
They're actually starting to track that stuff now, which is huge because, I mean, yes, you can talk about VAERS and its flaws and everything, but at the same time, if that's the system that we have in place and it is reporting all of these adverse reactions to a vaccine, then why are we still encouraging people to pump 5 shots in their arm?
Right.
Because, that to me just is insanity.
Right.
Like doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. That's the literal definition. But when you do the same thing over and over and over again and it doesn't produce results, it doesn't stop you from getting the virus, it doesn't stop you from spreading the virus, it doesn't stop you from dying from the virus.
Right.
The thing it's supposed to do is make your symptoms less severe. But I've talked to a lot of people who have the vaccine, and they've had way worse symptoms with it than I ever did. You know, oh, big confession, I don't have a vaccine.
Putting yourself on the spot there.
Yeah. But you know, I've caught COVID twice now, and it was never more than a mild cold.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've had people who are young, healthy, and they're vaccinated, and they were talking about they were down for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So
And still being affected by it.
and I understand that illnesses affect different people differently. So I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, you know, I'm not taking that out of the equation, but I just don't see why. Like, I get mandating or producing or creating a vaccine type situation where, like, if there is another medical emergency, then we can track, you know, who's kind of where,
Right.
and the spread of things. Because if, God forbid, something that's more severe than COVID does come down the pipe, which is very possible.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
Here's
It's very
something
possible.
crazy. So I was talking to a guy the other day who's an environmentalist,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, he went to college for environmental sciences. What he's worried about, not necessarily the gain of function research that's going on. He's actually more worried about these places that were traditionally, for the last 40,000 years, were frozen tundras that are now starting to warm up a little bit.
I've heard about some of that.
And the methane that's being released from the mud, because it's now becoming just this mud slosh pot,
Right.
which is like a breeding ground for these viruses. You're talking 40,000-year-old viruses that are being reintroduced to the world.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Now, if don't get me wrong, COVID was, you had a very high survival rate. And if I'm not mistaken, the last time we looked at it, it was like a 99.9%, right?
Yeah.
And again, if I'm not mistaken, it's Stuart, I don't know if you found that statistic yet, but 98% of those who died were from those, you know, conditions listed earlier. So my point is, like, bringing it back full circle, you know, I'm okay with if you want to make it to where people get to travel across countries, and you want to make like a globalized, I think this is what you need to have vaccine wise. If it's like smallpox, you know, polio, a couple of the ones that have been tried and tested over years and years of research, sure, you know what, fine, because we've all, you know, when we're born, we all have our immunizations that are tried and tested and proven to work.
Well, that's just it. There's immunizations that work. Polio is non-existent because of a vaccine.
Same with smallpox.
That is eradicated the virus. Same with smallpox. COVID vaccine's not doing that.
Yeah, it's not eradicating.
Not even close.
Yeah, but it's not eradicating it at all. So just bring it back full circle, Manuel, and Dean and everybody else watching right now. You know, I don't think we need a global COVID vaccine passport, but if you want to introduce the idea of like initial birth immunizations across, yeah, I'm fine with that, because I don't want somebody who does have smallpox to be coming into the U.S. to potentially give us all, you know, like that is a scary thing.
Our vaccines that we received when we were kids against smallpox would work against that, but I mean, it's just like what staph and MRSA, you know, viruses mutate.
Yeah, they do, and they mutate over time. You know, they jump from host to host, and they mix it all up. So you never know what happens there. So
get your guns ready, Dean.
I have one thing to say.
Go ahead. What's up?
I can't speak on other countries, but all this talk from Biden about individual health, freedom, and all this stuff. So if he talks about that over here and then he signs something that forces people to get a vaccine to travel around the world, you're a hypocrite.
I mean, yeah.
He's a politician.
Yeah, I was going to say, welcome to politics.
In other news, water is wet.
It's either you're for freedom of health or you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, and you make a good point. Like
One or the
we
other.
have to demand accountability on our politicians that go around saying, "Oh, well, I'm never going to take away your freedoms. I'm never going to take away your freedoms. Let me sign this freedom away."
As I'm taking away your freedom.
Yeah, absolutely, Stu. You're correct on that. And it's time for us as people and as a population to start holding those people accountable.
Paying attention, honestly.
Yep.
I do have a study.
Oh,
Okay, let me-
CDC study finds about 78% of people hospitalized for COVID were overweight or obese.
That's hospitalized. Do we have anything else on like death rate, mortality rate?
22%. That means 22% were not overweight or obese.
Right.
Of the
It
people
says about
hospitalized by COVID.
78% of people who have been hospitalized, needed a ventilator, or died from COVID-19 have been overweight or obese.
And that's not even considering the age or pre-existing condition factor as well. There you
Yeah.
go. So I mean, you know, that's probably about the best statistic.
That's
we
from
get for now.
CDC.
Without, I mean, but I mean, we have done in previous episodes, COVID episodes where we've gotten those statistics, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like 98%. So 98% mortality.
He's hard on the
mortalities.
98%.
I'm
number.
pretty hard
I
up on
remember
that
something
one.
came out, like people that have died from COVID alone
Yeah.
versus people that had something that had COVID too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I am pretty hard set on that one. But yeah, so anyways, we'll
Hopefully that doesn't turn out like one of his sports takes.
oh, stop it. My sports takes are great.
What we got next on the agenda?
Let's go through Dean's comments and we'll run over to the next one. So Dean said, yeah, but if everyone starts being healthy, the pharmaceutical companies will lose money because they won't be selling as many drugs and medications to people, and the government won't be able to mandate things to earn pharmaceutical companies money. And I
Take that
100% agree
tin
with that.
hat off.
Yeah, no, take that factual self-review away. How dare you?
Gosh.
Um,
Why are you speaking truth?
Apparently, somewhere in Russia, a virus that causes zombie-like symptoms was discovered. That's interesting.
That's why I said get your guns
Get your
ready.
guns, and then he said it was found evacuating the ice. So.
Yeah, see, that's what that guy was
Interesting.
talking about. That's actually kind of terrifying.
That is
I'm not gonna lie.
terrifying.
Like 40,000-year-old virus that's just been sitting there dormant.
And then has
come
had
out and
time
just,
to
like crush people.
yeah, we'll be able to mutate in PI. You never know. You never know.
Hopefully, it turns us into the X-Men.
Hopefully, that'd be nice. The rail strike move. Let's talk about Biden and the rail strike that we've been having here recently. So rail strike move shakes labor's faith in Biden and Walsh. U.S. Labor Secretary and former Boston Mayor Marty Walsh's holiday may not be as merry as he anticipated due to a fallout from President Trump's decision to use congressional authority to avert a freight rail worker strike that could have crippled the economy. As Biden's top liaison in organized labor, Walsh had helped negotiate a new contract in September that would have settled the matter. But after a few unions rejected the deal for not granting paid sick days, Walsh's accord fell apart, and Democrats had to rush a bill to Biden installing the contract over the union's objections. The credibility of Biden's commitment to the labor movement is being questioned by the very types of voters that the president will need in 2024. As Biden's labor secretary, Walsh's reputation took a hit in the eyes of some of the union workers that could threaten his own political support should he run for office again. It's also Walsh's job now to mend fences with unions. So quite frankly, Biden shouldn't be involved in this. I thought he was better than that. I'm quite disappointed with him. I hope he had I hope he kind of has a change of heart about this, says MBTA commuter rail worker Chuck Abbott at a protest against Biden in Boston last week. So labor isn't hiding that they feel betrayed by Biden, Walsh, and other Democrats in Congress. In a statement after the Senate passed the bill to halt the strike, AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler wrote, "It's deeply disappointing that 43 senators sided with the multi-billion-dollar rail corporations to block desperately needed paid sick days." So, I mean, it is pretty, disturbing there. But Biden has used his power to rush a bill to install a contract. So, I'm confused as to what the line of that contract is right now. I don't I'm trying to understand from the article and I'm not seeing it. What are they saying, that they have granted them the sick days now, or are they saying that they are now?
They have not.
They have not, and they're just kind of forced to work anyways.
So I think the union, they had a deal between the union and the company, and the workers rejected it.
Right.
So whatever that last deal that they rejected, I think Congress is forcing
To be put into. Wow. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I understand the need of our supply chain to continue going and how crippling it could be if our rail system just shut down. But, I mean, from everything I've understood, at least in the private world, working with unions, you're not able, like, you have to come to some sort of conclusion between your leaders and the union heads. You can't just force it. Yeah.
Unions built this country. Come on, man.
Why can't we give them sick days? Why can't we give these people time when they are literally sick to? And that's another thing. I mean, you know, when it comes to COVID or getting sick at all, these corporations aren't supporting you staying at home for a week or to isolate yourself or to do what you need to be able to get yourself healthy again. So it's really hard for me to sit here and say, oh, we need to mandate all this stuff. But if people get sick, you know, the corporation's not going to back them anyways. I don't know. It's just like a lot of people don't even want to tell corporations when they have COVID. They'll come into work anyways. They don't care because they need money. And then it's a as they call super spreader event. So super shredder. So it's interesting to see. I think they obviously deserve their PTO time, especially sick days. You know, I mean, hell, I think everybody in this country should have at least 3 weeks vacation to start. I mean, that's just my opinion.
It should be a month.
I mean, well, I agree, but like at least coming from like an American perspective, like to have 2 weeks vacation for some people is just the greatest thing in the world.
Well, I mean, plus allowing. So
Yeah.
It's hard. It's not meant to be, as they would call it play, but it's. With the
Yeah. Oh, is it muted? Oh no, that sucks. Ryan's been over here going on a great conversation here. But so yeah, okay.
just testing you guys' lip reading abilities out. That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly. That's all it was. So let's touch up on that, right? Now Manuel says he thinks the reason why is because they agreed to very high wages in place of the sick days. I don't remember, because I know we've touched up on this a few times. I can't remember how high those wages were. Now, I mean, from my understanding, they hadn't gotten an increase in over 5 years, and then they finally only got like a 10 to 15% increase. So even then, I don't think that's a huge bump.
In this day and age, that's not even keeping up with inflation.
Exactly. So I don't know how necessarily true that is, Manuel. I would love to see the confines of this contract. Of course, I would love to see like what the wages are and what they think is good for PTO. You know, being that I've worked this my whole life, I would love to just understand that. But I mean, yeah, I mean, going back to your point, you know, a month of vacation and time away from work makes you more productive. Hell, 36-hour work weeks make you more productive.
I mean, yes, and I'm kind of hypocritical because I think I only work like 35 hours a week, right?
Right.
Maybe a little more. Nah, I probably work 40.
40.
But I love what I do, so I am skewed on this. But
Right.
I still get good time off because my company recognizes that when you're at work, you should work. But when
Yeah.
you're at home, you should be at home.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what
With
I
your
mean?
family.
And that is just something that is, there's so many studies that have been published out there that have shown the benefits of taking a vacation.
Right.
I mean, I can't cite them anymore, but when I used to sell timeshare, like literally we would cite medical journals that talk about how taking a vacation is actually a necessity and will add anywhere from 2 to 8 years to your life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, vacations and just time away from work. Like when you're at work and you're actually focused on work, you know, you're able to be more productive when you realize you're going to be able to go home and get away from it. That's why they've argued, and in every study that I learned when I was getting my degree, every study that we watched or that we participated in and did research in basically said this: 36-hour work weeks, maybe 4 days a week if you wanted to do that. You don't have to necessarily do that. You know, it just depends on your business and like what you got going on. But 36-hour work weeks with 4 weeks vacation, you would be shocked at how much more productive people become in your company. Because they understand when I'm at work, I'm at work. They put away the technology. They put aside anything they got going on in their personal life because they have time to deal with it when they get home.
I am all for lowering the work day to 6 days a week. or 6 hours a day.
6 hours a day.
6 days a week? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, 6 days. Let's do it.
But no, if you lower, there's actually been studies that have been published on this as well. If you lower the hour load per day to 6 hours per day, then people get way more productive.
Yeah.
Because it's not consuming their entire day.
Yeah, it's not half their day.
And they understand that when I'm here, I'm here.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I
I'm
mean?
going to get my job done, and then when I'm outside of work, I have time outside of work. You have an additional, like, almost 10 hours you can spend outside of that. So if you're working 6 hours a day, then you're up to 16, and you get your 8 hours of sleep, you're golden.
Yeah.
So
Dean commented here. He said, also, what gives Congress the power to get involved with this? Would they get involved if there was a trucking labor union or a manufacturer labor union?
no, that's a good question. They
Absolutely.
yeah,
Based on what they're doing right now, Dean, I would say that they would absolutely get involved.
they would have to.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because that's why, strikes and things like that were put in place, was so that people still had power. Otherwise, corporations run wild.
Yeah, and then so he also, coming back to Dean's first comment, asked, do these rail workers get PTO time? Look, a certain amount of hours a month that can be used for vacation sick days. I'm assuming these guys are arguing to get specific paid sick days. There's a lot of companies or businesses out there that don't do specific sick days. Most of you have to use your vacation time, which is 100% correct.
I know the medical field is bad for that.
Manuel says 24% pay increase by 2024. They have long-term sick benefits up to 26 weeks, which I guess would be like long-term sick benefits. Yeah, so like long-term disability. And the rail carriers didn't want to budge on days off because of the way the system works. The scheduling is highly precise and was built around the assumption that they could use the same crew multiple times, which I guess is another interesting aspect of itself, right? Because if you're sending these crews out, they're going to have to work, and that's why every industry is different. So I will say, this is why every industry is different, and every single, industry is going to have a specific way of working it. So, yeah, I mean, I can agree with that, but the 24% pay increase to 2024 is absolute BS, considering I remember when we did this a while back, we talked about how they hadn't seen a pay increase for years. So I think
everybody should get a 40% pay increase, aka no more income tax.
Well, and so like when you look at today, wow, yeah, no joke. But when you look at today's day and age, I'll make this as my closing stance on this with the union workers. But when you look at today's day and age, you are told not to stay loyal to companies, because you are going to receive a 20% to 40% pay increase going from one company to another, getting a promotion or even the same position. You're going to get a better increase there than you will your company trying to retain you, because your company only gives you 5 to 6% almost and that's if you're lucky on a yearly basis.
I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
Because the longest I've ever stayed with a job was when I was in cars. And I stayed there for 6 years. And then I got out of cars and I immediately made 40% more.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got out of that, I stayed there for 2 years. And then I got out of that and I immediately saw a 60% increase in my income. So from 4 years, I've been with my company now almost 2 years. So in 4 years' time, I saw almost 100% increase in my income.
That's crazy. So
just by like, and I don't want to say I wasn't loyal, because when I was there, I was dying.
Well, right. When you were there, you were working for them.
But at the same time, when I asked the question, hey, am I going to get more pay? And like, what's going on here? I'm working my butt off, and I've made it to the top of your pay structure. Yep. And I've made it to the top of your place of business. Like, I'm one of your top reps. Then why am I being capped right now? Mm-hmm. Like, can we put something in place where I can get more of a percentage? Because I am a commission sales rep. So
right.
As commission sales rep, the game's a little different. You get to eat what you kill, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's, wow. I can't believe that just came out of my
mouth.
I
have a question for both.
Sure.
So Biden and the Democrats supposedly back unions, for the party of unions, etc. Yep. Are they on union side or on the corporation side? This one
sounds like they're on the corporation side.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's difficult to say because, well, so real quick, I want to touch up on Manny's comments. He says also to answer the question about Congress getting involved, it's because they get to regulate the interstate commerce, which is given in Article 1 of the Constitution, which is completely fine. And I do somewhat agree with that because, again, the feds have to make sure that we are able to get our commodities around the U.S., right? Like, it's just absolutely essential. So being able to keep our supply chain going is what is needed there. To come back to Stuart's question, whether or not it's, whether they're siding with the union or the corporation. I mean, obviously right now it's the corporation. Problem is, though...
Those damn Republicans.
Democrats. Problem is, though, you have to keep it going. Like, or else our economy will shut down. Our economy will completely shut down.
Who's on the side of the people?
Nobody right now. I mean, I would argue nobody, personally. Tulsi Gabbard. She's like the only person. She's like the only person I know right now that
2024.
I don't know.
But,
I just was wondering if y'all thought it was hypocritical.
I mean,
absolutely.
It 100% is. But, at the same time, do you let, your entire... talking
about these big corporations and their profits, etc.
Right.
But then here we are, they're siding with them.
It's tough. It is tough because we got to keep the economy
I get the arguments, but don't act tough on corporations.
Right.
Don't act like you're tough.
And the hardest part about all this is that the corporations are the ones who provide the millions of jobs that employ people.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other hard
you
part
do
of it.
have to side with them to an extent, but you have to also make sure that we're siding with the people in the sense that they're not being abused.
Right. But it's hard to say. Well, let's roll on to the next one. This was a good stopping point, I'd say, but we'll obviously keep on top of the railroad because, I mean, hell, what's to say that these workers just don't continue to strike anyways? You can sign whatever piece of paper you want, but unless they're physically out there working.
Yeah.
So
if they all just walk off the job, then what?
Yeah, then what? We're definitely screwed, right? So the Twitter files show companies' internal debate on how to handle the Hunter Biden laptop story. So it was meant to be Friday night intrigue at Elon Musk's social media service, Twitter, in his words, what really happened with the Hunter Biden suppression by Twitter. Musk turned to the former Rolling Stones journalist Matt Taibbi to reveal in and at times painfully show process that was billed. The Twitter files, Taibbi said, it was based on thousands of internal documents obtained by what the sources at Twitter, which appear to have shown to him a full blessing of Musk. Taibbi said he would had to agree to undisclosed terms to get access, which seems to mean that his story was disseminated using Twitter. Disseminated, thank you. Using Twitter rather than his personal Substack account. So Taibbi delivered the Twitter's decision at the height of the 2020 presidential election campaign to remove links to the New York Post report about the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop, post warnings that it was unsafe and blocked transmission via direct message. It turns out, per the files, that the decision was made by the company's trust and security team, but without the input of CEO Jack Dorsey, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey,
Former,
members of Twitter's own communications team were quoted in company emails at being puzzled at the response. Dorsey subsequently said the decision was a mistake. What Taibbi didn't show was any government effort to push Twitter into its actions, despite ongoing dialogue with both Biden and Trump campaign teams. In fact, one Democratic lawmaker, Rep. Ro Khanna, questioned why the social media service was restricting the say it again for me?
Dissemination.
I like that. The reaction to Taibbi's post on Twitter was not surprisingly partisan to conservatives. Taibbi showed the leftward tilt at the senior ranks of Silicon Valley's key technology companies. The liberals, Taibbi didn't show much other than the private companies struggling with how to properly respond to a breaking news story, and it was not sure was legitimate at the time for foreign interference with the U.S. elections. So, Twitter.
This comes back to put the information out there and let people draw their own conclusions. I agree. I mean, when you look at Twitter right now, they are under a lot of fire. Yeah, but at the same time, like Musk, in my opinion, this is completely my opinion now, is doing the right things by uncovering some of this stuff.
I agree.
Because what do we have if we don't have transparency? Then we have a veil.
Right.
And if we have a veil, then you can't see what's going on. And that just is, it's going to be all kinds of grounds for, secrecy, conspiracy.
It's going to destroy us on the inside.
It's going to rot us from the inside out.
Yeah.
And the other thing is oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm one who says the same as you. Keep Twitter to throw the files out there and let people draw their own conclusions. Though, I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and back to my other point is this shows that social media companies should not be protected by 230.
I agree.
Because if they're publishing and editing, then they're a publishing company.
Yep.
If they're just publishing, then okay. But it literally is just dropping the information.
Right.
Now, obviously, there are some guidelines, like if you're out there like personally threatening to like kill somebody or something like that, yes, you should be removed.
Right.
Or if you're showing, violent
acts
of murder and things like that, then that should probably be removed as well. But at the core of this is, these social media companies have used Article 230 to stop themselves from being prosecuted for these kinds of things. That's what I think is one of the most important things that's happening from this right now is there needs to be reform to what that is. They are not a town hall if they're editing material.
Right.
And
I
if they're
agree.
editing and picking and choosing what information gets to come to light, that's not a town hall. That is a publishing company.
Well, we've also seen now that Twitter has released all this information. We've seen how they have all the way back in 2018, they were donating and accepting more from Democrats than they were Republicans. It went from 98% to 99% or 96% to 99% of the money they were taking were donations from the Democratic side. And so you had a lot of bias on Twitter. So things they decided to, quiet and stories they decided to take away were mostly things not favoring the Democratic side. So it's
You mean Republican side?
They weren't favoring.
Okay, yeah.
They weren't favoring the Republican side, correct? And they were favoring the Democratic side. Sorry. But yeah. So I mean, when you have individuals working at a company and they're able to choose that bias, because everybody's on one side. I mean, yeah, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And I think the other thing that's massive that's coming out of this is it's showing direct government involvement in suppressing your constitutional rights.
Free speech.
Yeah. Government censorship. If the government's telling you, hey, censor this person, and you censor the person, what's different from the government just censoring outright?
Yeah, exactly.
And limiting free speech outright. Like, that is a direct violation of the First Amendment, in my opinion.
I agree.
And so there needs to be an investigation launched into this to find out the validity of these files, first and foremost. Because, yes, I do believe that they are real and they are truthful documents that are being, handed out by Elon Musk.
Right.
But at the same time, and the reason I believe that is because the amount of files that are coming out.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way he would be able to, produce that level of files and data in such a short amount of time since taking over Twitter.
Right.
So I do believe that they are factual. I do believe that it's a real document. But first of all, the investigation needs to, establish the validity of them. And then they need to go into why is this happening, who's doing it, and punish the people who are.
I agree. Well, and most of those people have been fired at this point.
Yeah.
I believe that is what Elon Musk.
Why aren't they in jail?
Well, why aren't they in jail? Right, and who would?
I can't say what I want to say.
Who would?
Amendment? I can't.
Who would carry out those charges? Right, because with the company, I mean, Elon Musk, worst thing he's going to do is fire him, get rid of him.
Yep.
I don't need him. But unless the feds come after him and say, hey, this was like a violation against our voter integrity, and unless they come after him, I don't see it.
Actually, that's a great question, Nathan. I don't know. Who keeps the government in check if the government's not doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
There needs, I guess, maybe there needs to be in this day and age a separate entity that is there to just keep the government in check.
In this day and age, we need
Has the power to
more.
prosecute
We
the
need
government.
we need more accountability out there than ever before. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that right now. Hopefully, we will find our way towards that. But that's just how it is.
I guess they're protected because they didn't give any. Says the government did an effort to push Twitter. They
Right.
just said could you look at this?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know exactly who's going to be the ones that would be prosecuted by all this, but Ryan, do me a favor. My iPad is slowly dying on me, so
you want me to read the next one?
If you want to read the next one, by all means. But if you can, is there any comments? Because I just had to click out of the video.
Oh, let me
Yeah.
check here.
Yeah, because I didn't want to.
Also, if the terms of service, I mean, it's not a First Amendment platform. I mean, you can't really.
Right. I mean, it's hard to say free speech, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. That's where social media and freedom of speech gets difficult.
So Manuel commented on here. They're siding with the county or the country. Progressives didn't like it, but Biden admin knows and has likely calculated just how devastating it would be to allow a strike. It's just the way it is, in my opinion. And then Dean came in and said, "Isn't it the social media's company right to choose what gets put out and what doesn't get put out in their platforms, though, since they are private companies? Now, when the government starts to get involved, I do believe it is a violation of freedom of speech." But you don't you agree that the social media's terms and conditions before you use it? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure by those terms and conditions, they have more crap in there. Because let's be honest, who reads terms and conditions?
Not
Do you?
me.
I was gonna say, if you do,
I
damn,
wanted to
good
hesitate
for
there
you.
for a second.
I was like,
you would
does this
think that
guy
I spend most of my
actually-
life reading terms and conditions because everything that has terms and conditions is 25 pages long.
Yep.
Stupid lawyers. And then Dean came in and said that there is an entity to keep the government in check. The people.
Hey,
With
I like
multiple
that.
exclamation points. That's why I raised my voice when I said that for you, Dean. I wanted to make sure I got that emotion in there.
That is true, though. The people are the ones who are supposed to be holding their own representatives
That's why we have
accountable.
guns.
That's why we have firearms. So,
And
at
then-
some point, it'll probably get to
Oh,
there.
dude, chat's going nuts right now. Manuel said the government keeps itself in check. It's pretty complicated, but fundamentally the balance of powers. And then he also said, and the people keep Congress in check theoretically.
Theoretically.
It's kind of hard to do that when there's no term limits. So us fundamentally, but also highly theoretical.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with that, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
we are the ones who are supposed to hold people accountable, hold our own representatives accountable, but
Apparently, part 2 is coming out.
pretty tough. Part 2 of the
Twitter
Twitter
files.
files, yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, we'll keep you all up to date with that because we love talking about Twitter and all
Well,
the files.
And you know the crazy part about all this that we're not talking about is that Hunter is a crackhead doing business in Ukraine for his father who's getting a 10% cut. How is there not, that's what the investigation needs to be launched in, because that is implicating our president into some pretty serious stuff.
I mean, yeah, there's so, there's other issues around all of that too. So not only do we need to be looking at Hunter Biden and the whole laptop story, we also need to be looking at from the opposite flip coin, we need to be looking at Trump and all the money he's taken from countries in the Middle East. He's taking more money from countries in the Middle East that people don't even realize. Between his businesses and his hotels and everything he's got going on there, he's actually received a lot of donations. And if I'm not mistaken, these were during his presidency by a foreign country when they were coming to stay at his business. Now, some people would argue, but it's his business. Yeah,
but also at the same time, when you're president, you are not the figurehead of your business at that point.
Exactly. You're a figurehead of you're supposed to be a figurehead of the country.
So you're not supposed to be actively involved in business decisions. So if they did happen during his presidency, I could definitely see a loophole being exploited there.
Right. And I think it was during 2018. I could be wrong, though.
But I mean, yes, it absolutely needs to be investigated.
I think everything
These
does.
people at the top, our leaders, our elected leaders, need to be held accountable.
I
This
agree.
is. I'm starting to feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, man. But it needs
same
to
thing
start
every week.
happening.
They brought in that Jack Smith or something guy to investigate Trump, and I'm pretty sure the GOP came out to say they're investigating.
I hope they all get investigated. I don't care if it's left, right, whatever. I just want
That's
people
where
to be
these
held accountable.
investigations never go anywhere.
Well,
No, of course
come January though, the GOP will have control over the House, so you may start seeing more like councils on things, investigative councils.
Right.
So, but it's the GOP. Do they ever do anything? No. They sit back and twiddle their thumbs.
Yeah, does anybody ever freaking do anything anymore? But
So, Nate, if you got it up, or do you want me to take the next article?
yeah, by all means, feel free.
Oh, snap. I have the power.
Pass the torch.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my face is glowing a little brighter right now. All right. So, Washington, December 5th, Reuters. The White House on Monday condemned Donald Trump's weekend remarks that called for the suspension of constitutional rules and urged more Republicans to come forward to rebuke the former president. Every president and every member of Congress swears to defend the Constitution of the United States, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said on Monday. Asking members of Congress to reaffirm their oath of office and uphold the Constitution should not be a heavy lift. Congressional Republicans need to do that immediately, instead of repeatedly refusing to answer the most basic question, Bates said. Some Republicans condemned the remarks made by Trump on Saturday on his Truth Social platform, but many remained silent or did not condemn him by name. Trump last month announced a third run for the presidency in 2024. Quote unquote, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, Trump said on Saturday, reiterating his false claims that the 2020 election that he lost to President Joe Biden were rigged. Trump's remarks came as a reaction to reevaluations on internal communications about how social media platform Twitter have restricted the circulation of the New York Post report during the 2020 election campaign about Biden's son Hunter, including on his business dealings with foreign companies. The Bidens have denied wrongdoing. Trump tried to walk back his remarks with another Truth Social post on Monday. What I said was that when there is massive and widespread fraud and deception, as he has been irrefutably proven in the 2020 election, steps must be taken to right the wrong. No such proof exists. Former Vice President Mike Pence and former National Security Advisor John Bolton, both Republicans, criticized Trump's remarks on Monday, with Bolton saying he was prepared to consider running for president himself if more Republicans did not call out Trump's comments.
Cool.
It keeps going.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good stopping point. So I do
Look
want
at that, I can read.
I do really want to touch up real quick on President Trump or ex-President Trump's exact words that he posted on Truth Social. So here's two screenshots I got for you here. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democratic Party, do you throw the presidential election results out of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. The fake news is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I want to terminate the Constitution. This is simply more disinformation and lies, just like Russia, 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 and all the other hoaxes and scams. And I said... And what I said was, when there is massive and widespread fraud and deception, as has been irrefutably proven in the 2020 presidential election, which is also false though, steps must be immediately taken to right the wrong. Only fools would disagree with that and accept stolen elections, MAGA. So, MAGA. So, I mean, number one, there is, as of right now, there's no proven widespread fraud. You have your small cases, we've had, but everything that's been taken to the courts has been shot down. So to say that every single court of every single state and that every single case that was brought up got, shot down because there's one agenda from the federal government would be very crazy. Scary. I mean, if it was real, sure, that'd be scary. But as of right now, there is no actual proof. So what he's saying is, again, just trying to blow smoke and create issues. There is no real evidence of widespread fraud. I mean, you're going to have your smaller cases of fraud. That is a thing, sure. And it's very possible. But to have that kind of widespread fraud would be
huge.
pretty. I mean, literally, then the entire government would be behind it. Like, yeah, every single person out there.
Maybe that's Twitter Files Part 3.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
I mean, but here, just to kind of play devil's advocate with you, does he somewhat make a point? Not entirely, obviously,
Right.
because what he's talking is kind of crazy. But does he make a point though with the collusion between the government and the social media platforms?
that I would say
Because
yes.
if you remember a couple of months ago, when what's his name, Zuckerberg,
Mhm.
was on Joe Rogan, he talked about the FBI reaching out to him and telling him that, hey,
Hunter
I think
Biden laptop
something's
story.
getting ready to come out. We think it's Russia disinformation.
Yep.
Blah blah blah. So the FBI was colluding with social media.
Yeah.
So right there's government colluding with
And I mean,
social
to be
media.
fair to Mark
And now
Zuckerberg,
you have this coming out that's
Yeah.
also showing government collusion with social media. So what it does is it opens the door for doubt.
right?
And so with that being said, maybe they didn't tamper with the election results, so to speak, but did they tamper with how people were going to vote? Because
By
I
receiving the
did
information.
see a poll that said, if people had known about the Hunter Biden laptop beforehand, I think it was something like 60% of Democrats said that they would have voted differently.
Right.
That would have been huge.
And yeah, because that's the other thing, right? So that obviously is what we're finding out to be factual. Because when you look at Mark Zuckerberg, you can't blame the guy for being like,
No,
hey,
the
the
FBI
FBI just reached out to me. We're not going to let this fly on our social websites if it's disinformation,
Well, they didn't call
right?
out
Like
the Hunter Biden
disinformation.
laptop specifically. They just said, we think we have something coming down the pipe
Right.
that looks like it's Russia
In
disinformation.
which they ultimately ended up talking about, yeah, and he was like, oh, okay, so I'm just going to make sure this doesn't find its way on Facebook. So I can see where I wouldn't say they colluded together necessarily. Maybe like Twitter, obviously, with these files being dropped, but I would say that most social media websites just kind of followed the directive of what the federal agencies were telling them.
So are they private companies at that point?
Is anything really private out there anymore? I mean, think about it. We get the government controls what goes on our TV, our radios, or I mean,
That's
they
what I'm
control
saying.
just about everything. So
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah,
in that case, do we need to take a real look at what is going on fundamentally with our media?
yes.
Also, just to kind of piggyback off that, Manuel came in and said he acts like people were being held at gunpoint to vote against him. Absolutely absurd, reprehensible.
I mean, I do disagree with the extent of what he's saying of. I will disagree with because again, I think a lot more people voted against him just because they hated him that much instead of more people liking Biden.
Mhm.
That's my kind of take on that.
The lesser of two evils.
Lesser of two evils. Now, the problem with reprehensible, isn't Truth like his own social media website now? Isn't it Donald Trump's?
He's got a very
Large
he's
stake
very
in it.
vested.
Yeah.
He's got a very vested interest.
So,
in
I mean,
Truth Social.
obviously, they're not going to reprimand him for that. And
I would say his vested interest in Truth Social is bigly.
And then, obviously, they're not going to, I don't think the federal government can actually come after somebody for, just spewing that. I mean, 'cause if that's the case, then freaking the Alex Jones should have been taken off the air years ago. There's plenty,
right?
There's
Like, a lot of the time.
yeah.
I mean, obviously some things were, but we're
Aliens.
back into it. The frogs are gay.
or like the guy that
It's actually turned out to be true. Did you see that?
what?
Yeah, there was a chemical that they were using. They were putting in water that actually did turn frogs into like having homosexual tendencies, and then they started
Interesting.
reproducing asexually.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
That's weird.
That is weird. Dean just actually chimed in too and said Trump doing what he does best: create drama and hysteria where there doesn't need to be,
I
or
agree
not
with that.
including supporting evidence when he makes these claims. Not saying he's wrong and not saying he's right, but maybe having some facts or evidence would help him out a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, every court
Stick
has
to the
shut
facts
down.
here.
Yeah, every court has shut down anything he's put out
I
there.
will say, I mean, you can look at this as probably like a big, like smear ad, like big tech and everybody. But I lost my thought.
That's all right. It happens to me
I
all
will
the
say
time.
though, if the FBI comes knocking on your door, I don't care who you are, that has to make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, ooh, crap.
I'd be doing the
That's
same
not
thing.
cool.
But
like I've had some run-ins with like not because of like me personally, but I've had, I've been interviewed for people looking for like top secret clearances and things like that before.
ugh.
And when that person knocks on the door and then flashes that badge, you pucker up a little bit. You're like,
I
ooh,
would too.
what did I do?
I'd be like, ah, crap. No, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, because when you're dealing with the government,
Zuckerberg's an android, so I don't know why.
reptilian. No, I mean when you are looking though, and you are dealing anything with the U.S. government, I mean that's nerve wracking because
Because they have the power to put you away forever.
I mean hell,
And the resources to make it look like you did whatever they're saying you did.
I mean yeah, theoretically, right? Like that's but even realistically, they can do that. It's
Absolutely.
not like it is factual.
Guantanamo Bay is a real thing.
It is factual. They can do that. Now, whether they do it or not, it's hard to say because they have so much money and influence and power.
Well, and then the people that it happens to disappear.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Edward Snowden or
And you get away in time.
what was his name? Smollett? No, that was the
Jesse
Jesse
Smollett.
Smollett, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're in other countries, but it looks like Jesse Smollett might even get extradited.
Oh, jeez.
That
I remember what I was
going
gonna say after my brain
Go ahead.
freeze.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do think the media and stuff were more unfair to Trump. I mean, they treated Trump very different than they treat Biden.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
100%. Well, and when you look at...
I don't know
like,
about the
Twitter-
voter fraud stuff, but
No,
I mean,
but-
you can look at it and big tech and these
Big media.
big media, yeah, they
Voter fraud, yeah, I'm not going to agree with. But when you look at the big media, I mean, Twitter's just proven that
they had
right
a lot
now.
of biased views and they tried to make him look.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's like one huge smear campaign.
Yeah.
I think he's an
But he
idiot.
didn't do himself
but
any favors with that either.
I mean, yeah, I was going to say...
Fake news. You suck. You're not even a journalist.
He's not helping himself, but he's also like stirring up the hornet's nest.
I
you know
really
what
thought
mean?
it was like his to lose, and then he just like he cannot help himself. If he just like would have sat back and just kind of chilled and went with the status quo, but he just cannot help himself, and he
He
just
really- if he
goes
could have
off
just kept
and just
quiet-
makes himself look like a fool.
If he could have kept quiet, he probably would have won easily
And a
come in
landslide.
2024. Yeah.
Because, I mean, if he would have just shut up,
If he would have.
he would have probably won in a landslide.
But, we are.
But if there's an old saying that I'm not going to repeat here, but it involves the word if.
If. Oh,
It's a
man.
mighty large word.
Yes, it is. So wrapping it up full circle.
Dean said tinfoil hat time.
Tinfoil hat time.
Yep,
Wrapping it
get him
up-
out.
Wrapping it up full circle.
Did you read what Manny said?
Oh, no, I didn't. Like I said, I'm at 1%.
It was the one before Dean.
Yeah, the one where being held at gunpoint to vote against him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
we
we're
read
good.
that. Cool. All right,
I want your voice heard, Manny.
Let's jump on to the last.
all of our viewers out there. We want their voices to be heard.
We'll jump on the last topic here, which again revolves around Trump. For Trump, tax fraud case, just one of several legal problems. New York jury convicted Donald Trump's company of tax fraud. Tuesday, a verdict that could damage the Republican politically and adds an already long list of legal headaches as he mounts another run for president. So he was found guilty for tax fraud. Is that what they're saying? A verdict that could. Okay, so we got to see what the
So it
verdict
hasn't
is.
been. He
Hasn't been proven yet, I don't
proven.
think. But he's definitely gotten convicted. So
Sorry, just go back to the Dave Chappelle thing where he's like, Trump came out and he was like, the tax system's rigged, and they were like, how do you know? He's like, because I use it.
no,
He was
convicted.
convicted.
He
Oh, he
was
was
convicted.
It could
I'm sorry.
damage the Republican Party.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the way they're wording it, he is convicted, and so he did end up getting found guilty for tax fraud. While Trump was not personally charged in Manhattan District Attorney, well, of course he's not going to personally get charged because he has lawyers, and there's the accountants that are supposed to handle that, so they're the ones they're going to go after. Attorney's tax case. He faces other inquiries though. They include a criminal investigation over top secret documents found in the Florida state. probes in Georgia and Washington into his efforts to undo the results of the 2020 presidential election, and more probes in New York. Trump has denied any wrongdoing and says he is being targeted by Democrats trying to keep him from reclaiming the White House. Here's a look at the probes underway in different states. So you got Mar-a-Lago, the 2020 Capitol election and Capitol riots, and then you have Georgia. So,
remember a couple episodes back
in New
when
York,
we did it was like the countdown of Trump's legal cases, and there was like 26 of them.
Way too many to count.
Way too many, and it was hard to keep track of. So, I mean, now granted, you can get sued for anything nowadays, right? Like, it's, you know,
I refrain from saying my if statement.
Yes, I mean, you can get sued for anything, but yeah, I mean, it is concerning. So going back to this, he was found guilty for tax fraud, right? New York found him guilty. So now he has other cases going on as well, and this is pretty damaging to his run through the Republican Party. I really don't see them endorsing him for the 2024 election. I really don't.
So is this the birth of the MAGA party?
This, you mean the downfall of it?
No, I'm saying the birth of a third party.
Oh,
'Cause
maybe.
If the Republicans don't endorse him, all of a sudden he goes rogue and
he runs as like an
a
independent
third,
MAGA, or whatever.
the MAGA party.
Yeah,
They might as well just do it. Just do it.
He might as well, because
Separate and
honestly,
go.
the Republicans are starting to turn their tides on him. But then at the same time, that's going to split Republican and MAGA
And
voters.
the Democrats are still just going to be as strong as ever.
And that's going to suck.
That will suck very
horribly,
bad.
because we don't need, I mean, regardless of how you view politically, we can all acknowledge that it is very bad for one party to have control of everything. Like, we can, regardless of how you look at politics, right? Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, whatever.
That's a slippery slope to totalitarianism.
Yeah, that's when it gets very bad. So I think it's a bad thing. I think he's really just hurting democracy, and he's not really realizing it. I really wish he would just kind of stop altogether. Like, just stop your entire, like, I understand you have your issues, whatever. Go, dude, you're 70 what years old anyways at this point. Let the rest of us take care of this. All right, let us, let the new blood come in and start to really try to turn tides and whatnot. Let's
limits.
Yeah, let's start to actually be
add
progressive.
term limits. Please.
Yes. I mean, what it takes for that is it takes the individuals that are already in power to
Do it.
put themselves out of a job. And why would they do
Yeah, they
that
would
when they
never
can
vote
sit
for
in
it.
there for 40 years and come out millionaires?
They can come out of political office and have cush jobs at like CNN or Fox or wherever the hell that they want to go.
Wherever they've gotten paid all this time or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it just.
It's so difficult because, again, if
It should be thrown up to a
people in
vote by the
power,
states.
the people in power are not going to give up their ability to just stay in that comfortable position.
It should be thrown up to a vote by the states.
I think it should just, honestly, what this should be, like, there should
The
be,
states should be able to regulate
if
that.
there's a time where we've ever had a direct democracy, it should be for term limits.
Yes.
Right? Like, direct democracy, 70% of Americans think there
I
should be
would say
term
it's even
limits.
stronger than that.
I would probably too.
I bet you it's closer to 90.
You think so? I mean, seriously, like, I know at least over half, right?
And the only people
strongly
that
believe
don't
that.
think that are probably like the boomer generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, no. I take that
I
back.
don't
The
even
boomers
think
that I've
they do.
talked to are like, get those a-holes
Out of there. Yeah, like, I mean, seriously, when you're 70 plus years old, you should not be in that high stress of a job. You should be with your family or alone on a beach. You should be doing whatever you
Enjoying the
enjoy.
golden
Don't tell them what to
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah, I can't tell them what to do, but I mean, seriously, I think there should be an age limit. I
There
think
should definitely be a coherency test.
yeah, like, and if you don't pass this,
I would be down for that, Manny. He said we should try ranked choice voting.
well, didn't Alaska just do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it
For
worked out great.
For their primary, I think.
Yeah, and it worked out fantastic. I agree. Ranked choice voting is a good way to go. But I also think to be able to, again, get term limits, it's going to have to be a direct democracy. I really think that's the one time in life where a direct democracy should matter.
Well, Manny said he would rather focus on ranked choice voting before we tried term limits.
I disagree
I don't
with
know,
that,
Manny.
too.
I think
I still want
disagree
term
with you on
limits.
that one.
I still want term limits.
Well, he just thinks it'd be easier to get through.
Well, sure, like, could you bring the
if that's what he's
concept
saying,
up?
then yeah.
It's more realistic.
It is more realistic, kind of. But I mean, again, when you have so many people that agree that this should happen, I don't see where it could fall, or fail. But except for the fact that the people in power are not going to put themselves out of a job.
But I mean, 12 years. Like that's a senator's term.
Yeah.
If you,
I thought it was 6.
it is, but I'm saying 2 terms.
2 term.
Oh,
yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
So 12 years. That's not enough time to get some stuff done.
6
more than
should
a
be
decade.
plenty.
You're a
6
public
presidents don't
servant.
even get that.
You're a public servant. You're not a
Yeah.
lifelong employee.
And that's one of the big things that I've always tried to argue is like you have to make sacrifices as a public servant to understand
if
I'm
you're a
not there for the
senator.
money. Not if you're a senator. You're not there for the money. You're there for the people.
Not if you're a senator.
I mean, think how cake it is for people like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, deep blue, deep red districts. I mean, they got it made. They get reelected every year.
Every year.
Every election cycle.
Every election cycle, whatever it is. It's yeah. I mean, ranked choice voting is a good way to go, though. We've dived into it way back. I would like to revisit.
Let's do it again. Let's hash that out. We should
we'll
go into it again.
We'll have to go into that again maybe next episode and kind of talk about what ranked choice voting looks like. So let's put that on the agenda, Stu. I would love to talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, so we, ultimately full circle, Trump. He is stirring up a hell of a issue coming on. Yeah, hornet's nest. I mean, he's just.
Well, is he stirring it up or is Elon stirring it up?
Well, good point.
Both of them.
I would say both of them. Yeah.
No, not both of them. Both of them.
Both of them.
Both of them.
Spell that for me.
BOFM.
That's awesome. Oh, so yeah. I mean, full circle. Do you all have anything else on Trump and what's going on there?
I am not a crook.
I don't know about this, I don't know, the Mar-a-Lago stuff, election, Georgia stuff. I mean, we'll see where that goes. But New York, I mean,
we'll keep up with it. But New York did convict him.
New York convicted him. I'm sure
tax
he's
fraud.
Got all kinds of lawsuits in New York.
Oh, yeah. Well, and with that list we went down, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think he's clean by any means.
No, I mean,
he's clean.
Of course he's not.
Here, just to also play devil's advocate, if you don't have a history of all these lawsuits, and then all of a sudden you just start getting lawsuits thrown at you left and right, does that say that you're a bad person, or does it say that they're coming after you?
I mean, even then,
and who's they?
If you're playing the tax system, you're not necessarily a bad person either. You're just, I mean, if I had unlimited money and I could put lawyers and accountants on my books and just say, hey, straighten it up for me. Take any loophole you can, save me the most amount of, why wouldn't you? Why?
You'd be dumb not to.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You're not necessarily a bad person.
As the tax code is currently written, if you're not taking advantage of the loopholes that are in place to help you, you're an idiot.
I am trying to learn about it more and more every year so I can start to take advantage as an average citizen.
If you read the tax code, it's literally like a step-by-step instruction booklet on how to not pay taxes.
Yeah. I mean, so like me personally, I'm doing the same darn thing. I don't want, to continue to get destroyed by taxes when I know there are millionaires, billionaires out there that aren't getting destroyed by them. And I'm an average citizen. I don't need to be paying taxes. I can,
just give me my income tax back.
Just give me my income tax back. I'll be fine.
I'll pay the rest. Give me 40% of my income back. That would be amazing.
Yeah, like personal property. Sure, keep it there. Just give me my income tax.
Sure.
I don't care.
Don't care. Give me my income tax back.
If I brought home my gross.
Oh my God, Nate.
I know.
Oh my God,
I know. So, anyways, that's besides the
Manuel
point.
commented. He said, "I mean, look, political cycles are long. 12 years in DC time, to be honest, isn't that long if you're trying to get major things done." Which is the problem, Manuel.
I was going to say that.
If there's term limits, then all of a sudden these long, drawn-out battles where these people like Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, these people who are in deep red or deep blue sectors, then they have to work with other people to get things done.
Feel urgency.
Yep. Yeah, it builds urgency. So now instead of just saying, this guy, who's this guy? Well, I'll just wait him out. Now all of a sudden these major things that they're trying to get done, Well, they start finding solutions rather than finding problems with each other. And I feel like if there were term limits, they would have to work together more. You wouldn't see the divide. You wouldn't see the separation. I think you would see a lot more reaching across the aisle and working together.
Well, the other big issue that I would say is you sit here and look at it, and like y'all said, there's no sense of urgency. And these documents that they type up are thousands of pages.
Thousands.
Like, they're huge. So how do you expect them to have the time to be able to read every single document that is proposed to them? So I would argue that, the inefficiency is in the system itself, and we're allowing them to be inefficient. We're allowing them to avoid these issues and not, like, I understand it theoretically, because when you look at the amount of time they take just to campaign, that's almost half of what they do, if not more. So yeah, they're not spending time trying to actually create change for the people. They're spending more time trying to keep themselves in power.
The other thing is this. It doesn't matter. I saw an article about this the other day, and it was talking about the tendencies of voting in Congress.
Right.
And whether people majorly support a bill or don't support a bill does not really affect how Congress votes.
That's interesting.
It has about a 30% pull on how Congress votes.
Yeah.
So, like, if say 90% of Americans want term limits, Congress doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like, if 90% of people wanted no income tax, Congress doesn't care. They're not voting based on what the people want.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why we put them in power to begin with.
Yeah, it's crazy because I remember we were reading statistics a while back as well. It was like 70% of people are displeased with their, with how their state representatives are representing them, but most of them get reelected almost every time. It's like, how does that make sense? I don't understand the logic behind that statistic, and we brought that up a while back. Like I said, I can't remember the exact
86.
it was. We've been on for a while, but it's yeah. So I mean that was insane too. So
I just don't think they don't ever get in trouble for anything. Like we have some corrupt politicians that probably have done some shady stuff,
right?
And we rely on unelected officials and the FBI and whoever else to investigate. But I mean, they don't have to investigate them. Like the people can't investigate politicians.
We could theoretically.
Then you get suicided.
But
ask the Clintons.
I don't know. All these people in Congress that are unelected and the FBI and stuff, and we rely on them to like filter out the corruption. I don't know. It's just crazy to me.
Right. And then Manuel says, we've talked about this before. I think 90% of the general population is not the same thing as 90% of Congress.
Heck no.
Right. I mean, your general population is what I would consider. I mean, well, obviously everybody who lives in the U.S. You have 360 million people here, and then you're 90% of Congress. How many people are in Congress? 500 something.
I mean, Senate and House together, I think, is like right at 512 or something like that.
528. I can't remember. Not right off the top of my head, I'll be honest.
Because in the House 428, and then Congress is 100, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so 528.
Yeah,
I just really wish people would pay attention to who they vote for.
I just wish people voted their conscience, and I wish that we could find a way to do term limits or ranked choice voting. I mean, I agree with ranked choice voting.
Let's just do both.
Or both, yeah. Like, why not do both and then create that sense of urgency for our politicians to actually create change during their term limits and stop campaigning so much. If you create change and like you are showing it and you're putting it out there and you're kind of gloating about your achievements, people are going to see that and be like, you know what? I want that person back in there. I'm tired of them spending.
Like that's how Rand Paul gets reelected.
I'm just tired of people spending or these politicians spending so much time trying to put themselves back into power by campaigning a lot of the time, and that doesn't make sense to me, because if all you're doing is wasting your time campaigning, then really what are you doing while you're there? It doesn't make sense to me. So
nope. But we've been on for an hour and 30 minutes
and a half.
We are like JRE version T-poo, or
V2?
V2. That's what I meant to say. V2, not T-poo.
Too bad we don't have like a nice building where we can smoke cigars and stuff. That'd be kind of nice. I would do that.
Speaking of which,
Speaking of which,
Gonna start seeing some major changes to the fact is here, and
yeah, we're
difference in scenery.
We're gonna be changing up the difference of scenery probably within the next 2-3 months. So keep an eye out for that. Of course, you'll. I'm
We're
sure.
not gonna let you know when it happens either. We're just gonna show up.
Yeah,
there.
we're just gonna show. Hey, new location. But yeah,
See if they notice.
Yeah,
Good.
see if they see it.
We're gonna put soap in your coffee.
I do want to go back to what Manuel says though, because he loves this conversation. But I'm not convinced that term limits create a sense of urgency. I'd have to see data, examples, intuition in politics isn't very reliable and often doesn't reflect what actually happens. I mean, yeah, but I would also argue, how would that not create a sense of urgency? Because if you are on a deadline, if you are given a deadline, like, hey, you only have at most 8 years. Okay, that creates that sense of urgency in senators, 12 years. You have at most 12 years, and this is what you can do to make an impact. Now, granted, again, whether they're in there for the money or they're there to actually serve the public is another issue. Because if you're simply in there for the money, which you can make a boatload of money,
Then you only get 12 years to do that.
yeah, then you only get 12 years, but you're just going to be hanging out the whole time, right? But theoretically, again, they all do have term limits. Us, we vote on them to come out.
Theoretically.
But
when you have a super PAC throwing millions and millions of dollars at your re-election campaign,
right? Which again, so iPad just died. So iPad just died. If anybody comments, please let me know. But yeah, I mean, but before we shut this off, because I love this conversation, right? I understand there are benefits to, corporations donating and being able to get, I understand that. But my problem is politics, and we've had this discussion between the three of us before. Politics, the root of the issues, in my opinion, is money.
Oh no, here we go. Get your tin hat on, boys.
My opinion on this is the root issue is money.
This one is as bad as the sports takes.
Because if you're running for the governor for Virginia, as of right now, you need to look to have $50 million. You need to have $50 million to be able to just do that. If we're simply following individuals with money, then you are eliminating an entire pool and selection of people who aren't necessarily as loaded with the cash. Again, when you go into politics, you're not supposed to be going for money. It's not supposed to be
public service.
And you're there to people who serve the public are there to do just that. You're not there for the money. You have to learn to make sacrifices.
Politicians are the only ones that make these millions of dollars. Why don't teachers? Why don't police officers? Why don't firemen, firewomen? Why don't your Parks and Rec people? Why are they all making $30,000 a year?
Exactly.
Whereas, you get in. A senator's salary of what, 160?
175,
in the grand
something
scheme
like that.
of things, is not a huge salary. It's more than 99% of the population. But it's not like a huge salary.
Right. It's not like a CEO type thing.
No. So why are they becoming millionaires?
And
why aren't your Parks and Rec people becoming millionaires? Why aren't your, firemen? Why aren't your police officers?
Well, let's just say you bring in
when they do, it's called corruption.
Well, let's just say when you bring in $100,000 a year and you're in there for 40 years, $4 million. I would say just based off your salary. That's not including the stocks you invest in, anything
Insider
else
trading.
you throw in there. Insider trading, yeah. So it doesn't include all that.
I would say donations and insider trading.
Or
if they're wealthy before they go in.
Yeah, like Youngkin.
Yeah, like Youngkin.
Successful businessman.
He was a very successful financial businessman. He ran like a financial institution, and I think 70% of his donations of that $50 million that he put up to be governor was from his company. So that's, again, you go back to taxes. He wrote off the taxes, from his company for the donation to the campaign. And then he personally wrote off his taxes, right? Because he donated his own money to the company. Like the way they play the tax system is ridiculous.
It's ingenious.
I just like the thought of keeping fresh people in. You weed out that dead weight. Granted, if you have really good senators and people in the House, they get weeded out too, but maybe they can go run for president or governor or...
Well, the other thing is this. If you have those really good people, then they'll figure out a way to stick around a little bit in some way or shape or form.
Yeah.
But, there's been really, really good presidents, they left.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I think we can all agree that while Ronald Reagan was flawed in some of his things, he united the country probably better than any president before him, other than like JFK. And JFK, he unfortunately was assassinated, so
Right.
we never got to really see what he was going to accomplish.
Or you could make the argument that, Bush did, because 9/11 was probably the most unified we've ever been.
Yeah, but that was,
But it was a
very
tragedy.
short-lived.
Yeah, right.
But, and on the other side, minus the Monica Lewinsky and
Bill Clinton.
I think it's like 100 people that have died now that are around him. He was a great president. I mean,
He was a great president.
I cannot sit here and deny that.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton
He
was a great president.
Apparently, he was a great president. I mean, I of course, I was still pretty young, but
I'm not educated enough on that.
yeah, apparently he was a great
I
president.
think Bill Clinton was the last time the United States was actually in a surplus, where we brought in more money than we spent.
Right. So
that's something that.
it's difficult.
But see, that's just it, though. If we can have a great president and that person can disappear after their 8 years, then why can't a senator?
Right.
I agree.
Why can't? Why? Yeah, I 100% agree.
I just like keeps fresh people in, new ideas.
And
We
some
now
Didn't
people.
get reelected, Manuel, and then FDR is why we have term limits on a president.
So some
sorry, I was
people.
just replying to
No,
his
you're good.
comment
You're good. What some people will argue is our political system is so complicated that you have to have so many years to learn it, and it's like, well, if it's that complicated, shouldn't we just simplify it? Like anything that is super complicated, the only things that should be complicated out there are like rocket science and
Quantum physics.
Quantum physics. And I mean, of course, like doctors and nurses, dealing with the human body, that would be complicated having to, do that. But politics itself, there shouldn't be anything complicated. It should be very clear cut,
Well,
in my
where
opinion.
it gets complicated is that you're representing so many people.
That can get difficult. I get that
Yeah.
part.
So that's where the complication.
But
I
that's
think,
why
comes
you
from.
push it. That's why you and from what I've always learned, you learn to delegate and you learn to push it down to local governments.
Hey, so I'm really sorry, Dean. I saw your comments and then I skipped over them because Manuel came in with the Truman FDR comment.
Sure.
So I want to go back and we'll give our boy Dean Roadcamp, Roadcap. Sorry, I said camp. Dean Roadcap, Old Faithful. He commented and said live audience question marks about the change
with the new change in the yes.
yeah,
there's
we can
potential
definitely have some
actually.
guests. So
We-
Dean, if you want to get on here and tell us how you feel, man, get on here and tell us how you feel.
We can also have anonymous guests who want to wear
Anonymous,
masks.
they can wear Kanye's mask.
We were talking about him.
Hey, get well soon.
Get
bro.
well soon, buddy.
And he also said definitely needed to have an episode talking more about term limits, ranked choice voting, pros and cons of each. Actually, I'm so down for that.
Yeah, me too.
Let's set aside, maybe not next week, but let's set aside one of the episodes here coming up, or even have a special episode
Yeah.
where we wear
Sit down and
American
just talk
flags
about it.
as capes and stuff. I don't know, but we do something where it's completely dedicated to this topic because we
Yeah.
could go on for this for hours. if
Oh
we
yeah,
really wanted to.
that could be a very, very long
And
discussion.
it would be awesome to get you guys involved and maybe have Dean and Manny, or sorry, I just called him Manny. God bless.
Manny, Manuel.
Manuel. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to disrespect or anything like that.
Love you,
But
Manny.
have Dean and Manuel actually come in and get them some mics, and we could smoke a cigar and just have a good, honest discourse.
Discussion, like a round table discussion. I would
Yeah.
love that. I would
I'm
absolutely
so
love
down for that.
Because we'll be getting there hopefully soon, and with the ability of what we're going to be doing here in the next 2 to 3 months, and the difference of location, we'll have a little more space. So I believe we'll be able to do something of that nature.
Manuel just commented as well. He said, "I have to disagree. Politics is really complicated. It's a lot of things: philosophy, law, economics, international relations, international security, etc., etc." He said, "You can call me Manny." Sweet, roll that level now, man.
No, I
It's
mean,
good.
I do agree it's complicated, but what you have to do is you have to have specific people that are more in line with those specific areas, right? So if you have somebody who's done international business, or you have somebody who's traveled across to different countries, then yeah, they should be more entwined with that side of politics. And yeah, as difficult as it is, when you have multiple people around a table discussing, it shouldn't get that difficult, right? Like, it should be pretty clear cut. Like, here are some of our choices. Like, let's vote on the choices we have. Let's come up with well, first off, let's come up with multiple solutions. Let's figure out which solutions are the best. You vote on them, and you just
That makes too much sense.
For me, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Stop making too much sense.
It shouldn't be.
I have to quote Neil deGrasse Tyson on this one.
Let's hear it.
He said, in Congress, why is it only lawyers? Where are the scientists?
Yep.
Where are the the engineers? Where
Business
are the
leaders.
business leaders? Where's the diversity? Why is everybody just a lawyer?
Typically.
Yes, you are working with law. So I understand that. But you can have a team of lawyers around you
That can depict what the law is while you're
get some
discussing.
diversity in Congress, and maybe that's something that term limits could open up as well.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I do agree. Like, you can't just have ignorant people walking around in Congress, right? Like, but I also believe that maybe some ignorance would be good because you have those questions, right? Those new faces that are like, well, why do we do it this way? Let's get an expert in here to talk to us about it, right? Like, let's get somebody in here who understands the law. Let's talk about that. But that's to my opinion, a little bit of ignorance wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily.
Not every once in a while.
Yeah. So,
But anyway,
so
we're
let's
at
wrap her up.
an hour and 42.
Yeah, let's
We're
wrap her up.
Absolutely encroaching on
Because
January
I
territory.
got stuff I gotta get ready for work.
I gotta get
tonight,
back to
so.
my fambalam.
Yeah, it's, other people got families and fun times and bed and naps and yeah. Anyways.
Will I be compensated for overtime?
Yeah. No.
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 Unanimous no.
Yeah. Sorry. Democracy. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for the 104th episode. Manny and Dean, thank you all so much. Really appreciate y'all coming
And he
in tonight.
does have something else.
Oh, let's hear
Yep,
it.
he said, I think you may be underestimating the implications of what you're deciding. You never know what's going to happen. But if you deeply understand what's happened in the past and the mechanics of the system, you have some idea. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And well, so even then, historians. Why don't we have historians in there? I mean, there are so many different people that are experts in their traits that we could exploit their expertise to.
I wouldn't say exploit. I'd say lean on
or use or to encourage their expertise to help us understand more of this, right? And to actually give us something to go off of. It's just a thought. Like, it's, I think there has to be a change, right? Like, we can all kind of acknowledge there needs to be change. How we go about that is more discussions, right? And that's for us to figure out, us, the new generation. So.
Yep.
But anyway,
take us off.
Yeah, let's get out of here. 104th episode. Thank you all, Manny, Dean, especially. Thank you all for jumping in here. Appreciate y'all watching or commenting,
Love
watching.
you guys.
Love you guys. Seriously.
Old faithful.
We do this just because we obviously we are trying to spread out to everyone. We want to have discussions like this with everyone. Manuel, you're a genius, and Dean, you're a genius, and we're all geniuses in our own little worlds. And what we do and what we bring to the table, our experiences and our expertise. So it's really nice to be able to see that and to have these conversations. So thank you all for joining us, of course, today and tonight. And, of course, we look forward to hopefully everybody coming into the 105th episode. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get off here. Please make sure you all follow, share, like, do everything you can to help our page continue to expand.
Spread like herpes.
We're trying to, that's, wow. Yes and no. But we are... Wow. We are trying to obviously get to every single person that we can, because here at the Fact Is Podcast, we believe that we do have more in common than what we don't. We just have different ways of getting to it. So please make sure you share this with those that you love, but also those that you disagree with, because it's always good to have conversations with all sides of the aisle. So
just gotta talk about it, man.
Just gotta talk about it. Figure it out. It's
okay to disagree.
Accept your ignorance and don't let your pride get in the way, and you'd be shocked at how many things can change.
I'm not ignorant to anything.
No?
Nothing. I know everything about everything. I'm all knowing.
I am the knowing.
I am the knowing.
I am the I. With that being said, thank you all for the 104th episode. We were your host, Nate Moses.
And I'm Ryan Mays.
And we had Stu that was generously helping us with the tech in the background. So thank you, Stu. Always appreciate you coming through.
Stewart.
Thank you.
Like Jamie Stewart.
Jamie Stewart.
Yeah. Ooh, Jamie Stewart. That's got a nice ring
It
to it,
does
like
have a nice
Ricky
ring to
Bobby.
it. Like this was the 104th episode of the Fact Is Podcast. We will see you all next week for 105.